All right, it's the third year, so it's not my first time talking about MulteFire, but it continues to be a great story. And we thought I would talk a little bit about, again, what was the vision? So why are we doing this? Jump a little bit in how the technology will evolve or how we see what's important. Some summary on the business opportunities. So what is the market size? Why we're actually doing this? Well, we do it to earn money, of course, right? So it's not for nothing. Then a quick wrap up. So if you go back to the vision that we had when we started, we said, okay, so what can we do more with LTE? Because LTE is pretty much, well, the best radio on the planet today, commercially available. And a lot of companies, including the company I work for, felt that we're not seeing enough of that technology into industries, verticals, and so on. And we think it can have an enormous added value. So and we looked at what are then reasons why we don't see more of that. And one of that is, of course, the ease of deployment, other topics, and so on. And we came to the conclusion if we move LTE and unlicensed, then probably a lot of these topics can be tackled. And the main aim is, as it says here, so extend the LTE ecosystem. So we make the technology available to different people, to different companies, and of course they can inject their views, creativity to tackle the use cases that they see could be solved with something like LTE. We also said, hey, is it going to be difficult? If we make it too complex, then probably this technology will never mature. So our vision was we will use as much as we can from the 3GPP side. So everything we do is based on 3GPP specifications, but we extend it with those kind of features that are needed to put it in license. So Mazen already talked about coexistence. So MulteFire is essentially LTE augmented with features that allow it to coexist with Wi-Fi. So it has a listen before talk and that type of functionality. We did some other tweaks that we thought were really important. We changed the frame structure because we looked at, hey, what is really needed in industrial? And it's a lot of uplink traffic, right? So you have a lot of IoT devices that want to send data back to the cloud. So that means traffic comes this way as opposed to that way. So we said this frame structure, let's make it flexible. So that each time you send something, you can think you want to listen or you want to send. So those were some of those ingredients that we stuck in there. And we said, okay, with that kind of stuff, we can enable new verticals and markets and new use cases. So in the recent year, I would say, in particular, industrial IoT has come to the surface as a leading opportunity. So the industry is, of course, already using wireless, but most companies all give us the same feedback. They say, hey, there's a certain ceiling we reach with using wireless, and then if we want to commit more business-critical processes on top of wireless, we will need a technology which is more reliable, and reliable means it always works the same way, so it's deterministic. It needs to have a similar 5 nines outage characteristics as you have in macro networks. We need to be able to have quality of service, right? I have one layer where, for example, we talk to a company, they have very big machines, sends heartbeat messages every 20 milliseconds, and if they don't go through, then the machine shuts down. So I want to have a slicing that can handle this or different QoS. And I want to give my employees access as well, but maybe that can be best effort and so on. So a lot of these kind of attributes that you don't have in other unlicensed wireless systems, but that we do have in licensed systems in LTE. And we said, again, if we go into unlicensed with LTE, make it MulteFire, then we can bring all these attributes into these vertical markets. We also put the cable industry. I think MulteFire is not just for private networks, but for cable as well. And a lot of cable operators have an enormous amount of POPs around the country, and you can easily extend those with MulteFire access points, and you can make different type of business models where people offload from the macro network into your MulteFire cable network, and there are some opportunities to make business. On the other side, for MNOs, we didn't mention on this slide, but I think for MNOs it's also an extremely good opportunity to augment their macro network. So you can bring capacity into places where it's not so easy to do it today, and you can use a different type of people that install it, right? If you want to put small cells in your macro network, use the same spectrum, then you have this so-called co-channel interference. So that means if you want to put a small cell you need to think about what is this macro doing, because it all works in the same spectrum. Again, with MulteFire, you just put it in 5 gigahertz. You don't need to worry about how it coexists. So it makes it a lot easier to deploy, and it means also that the economics of putting this in the field goes down exponentially. So one of the other big benefits that we think we enable there. So then, and then if you start to do that, even though we use a lot of 3GPP stuff, it's not the same. So, and that means, if you want to then have people building this type of solution, we need to make sure everybody builds it the same way. So we set up the alliance, therefore, not just as a goal to stimulate the market, but also as a goal to create a standard, so everybody from modem side to infrastructure side will develop it, so we have a good interoperability. So release 1 is publicly available, and we are now putting in place a certification program, so that if you want to sell a product with the MulteFire banner, that you are compliant with the standards that we have defined. A little bit nutshell about the vision. So far, I don't know if what you have been noticing here in Mobile World Congress, but I can say I hear a lot of people talk about private networks, the capabilities that it offers, and MulteFire is the enabler, essentially, to do it anywhere on the planet without needing to worry about acquiring spectrum and other kind of hurdles. Good. Where do I go? Press this one. Good. So, coming back to 3GPP. So essentially, our technology roadmap follows 3GPP. So we started with MulteFire Release 1, which essentially uses Release 13.14. So there you have something called LAA and ELAA. So already in 3GPP, work was done to put the downlink bearer for the data and the uplink bearer for data in unlicensed. And then we took that and we said, okay, what else do we need to make that work as a standalone function? Well, that's control channels, right? You need to be able to send the signaling. And then, as I said, we defined inside the alliance a couple extra things for coexistence. And then we said we want more flexibility on how much uplink and how much downlink you use. So that's done. We defined that. And then we have moved forward to MulteFire 1.1. And it will not surprise you that one of the feedbacks we got was that, hey, for the IoT use cases in unlicensed, we will have devices that are low cost, that need long battery life, and and people say, so why don't you put eMTC and narrowband IoT in unlicensed as well? Well, we have been thinking about that ourselves already, and we totally agree. So, and this is now the next enhancement which is under development. It's MulteFire 1.1, where we have kind of what we call expanded IoT support, so you can do IoT with Release 1, largely IoT solutions that require or are tailored towards higher bandwidth needs, like video camera, things like that. And then we said in 1.1 we will bring the eMTC and narrowband IoT to support these kind of sensors that sit everywhere, or engine controls that, for like here, the air conditioning in the ceiling and so on. So that work is ongoing, and of course we are also looking forward what to do with 5G. Well, for us 5G is simply an evolution, right? So MulteFire enables a new business opportunity, a new business model. We do the technology work, and then 5G is simply for us the next evolution in this kind of new business model and opportunity that we create. So we are waiting till 5G NR is on track. We are the same companies in MulteFire Alliance that define that work. And when that has stabilized, we will look at what is then the 5G MulteFire version. So it's in our plans, and we will start working on it, I think, somewhat during the second half of the year. So that's the technology. Then spectrum, that's another one. So many people always thought MulteFire is LTE and unlicensed, but we never looked at it that way. So MulteFire essentially is a technology to coexist with other radio inside a given spectrum. So it's not limited to 5G or something like that, but you can put it in 2.4. Or, as you will see quite soon, we have also made it compatible with the 1.9 gigahertz band in Japan, where you have the so-called DEC system. I don't know if you remember that. Microphones use that, and so on. So there's spectrum, and again, if we have the right coexistence mechanism, we can put our LTE in there without disturbing the DEC. So then on the low band, same story. So we are not limited to bands where there's only Wi-Fi, but again, there's different type of technologies, and the same rules apply there, how you can coexist. So we are extending MulteFire across this band. And the beauty is that oops, what happened? The beauty is that we want to go back to this slide, that we have mobile broadband, a lot of spectrum in 5 gigahertz, so enormous spectrum. So there's 500 megahertz of bandwidth, so that means you can build gigabit per second networks. But they're also a little bit smaller in terms of coverage. And then when you go to the lower end, we have found low-band spectrum, which will give us the wide range to reach sensors that are deep in campus areas or deep inside buildings and so on. So we have a very nice palette how we can connect everything that you need inside these private networks. So then still a little bit about MulteFire release 1.0. So we made the spec available in April 2017, which essentially was the starting point for companies to start to look at product development. And I would say in telco gear type of stuff, product development typically takes about a year or a year and a half. Nevertheless, we have seen the first products to come available. I will show those to you in a minute. And also we are seeing the first trials being planned. Personally, I thought we would be a little bit faster, but maybe that's just because I'm an impatient guy. But we are now seeing fairly concrete plans for MulteFire trials in the second half of 2018. And as already said, we have kicked off the certification program to guarantee interoperability. So then on the product side, there are two. So one is from the company I work for. So we launched a MulteFire small cell. Well, it's usable both indoors and outdoors. It can do 2 bands, so it's 40 megahertz, which essentially means that you have some 300 megabits per second throughput, basically an unlicensed spectrum. You can put it anywhere you want, and again, you can see the strength of what MulteFire can offer. If you want to see it, so we have a live demo at our booth. It includes a few use cases, so it's in the public part of the booth, so please go and have a look. So it's not faked, it's real live with a real UI, and we show the coexistence. We show some examples of how MulteFire can be used in the harbor area or container tracking. And we also show some of the benefits of mobility that MulteFire brings. But that's not the only one. We have another commercial product that has come out. It's from Bicells. So Bicells was a very early member the MulteFire Alliance, very active, and they have proven the same in the product development. So Bicells developed the MulteFire access point that sits in the 1.9 gigahertz. So that's the one that coexists with the DEC spectrum, and that can be deployed commercially in the Japanese market. The beauty of this one is that it doesn't require any changes, so the entire 1.9 gigahertz DDLT ecosystem can be used already today on top of this product. So I would say please go visit them as well. They are, where's Bicells? You guys are on hall 2, hall 1. So please go and have a look. Yeah, I like this product personally. Good. Then. I keep flipping the slides too fast. So then a little bit more about 1.1. So as I said, one of the key leading market opportunities has turned out to be industrial IoT. So, and it seems in particular to in factories, in areas like harbors, ports, there is enormous immediate opportunity for MulteFire. Except that they said, hey, we also want to use that same MulteFire network to not just connect broadband devices, but we also want you to connect everything else. So that's why we have really focused this release 1.1 on IoT and included the eMTC and narrowband IoT that I said before. So the spec will be ready in June, and that would mean that products would typically come in first quarter next year, or at least you would start the trials. So we have still a little bit of waiting time there, but making good progress on getting the specification done. Then what else do we have there? We are doing some more work on latency. There's a certain functionality called grantless uplink, which allows you to anticipate the need for making a transport channel available so we can cut down this latency a little bit further. We're also looking at some coverage extension. One of the things you cannot do with MulteFire is especially in the higher band, is broadcast at very high output power. So we're using software to extend range, and that's inside there as well. What else are important ones? Power savings. So again, tailored towards IoT. So when you have sensors, meters on the wall, some are battery powered. So, again, we're looking at the same type of stuff that has happened in the 3GPP track. We are taking those key features into the 1.1 release. Some further sound capabilities. One of the strengths of MulteFire is more simplified deployment, and we think we need to continuously enhance that further. So how it should go is that if you want to put MulteFire in, here in this Congress, it shouldn't be that you need network planning tools, but it should be intuitive enough that you could say, hey, I put one here, I put one 100 meters further, and that's the way how you do the planning, and it shouldn't get more complicated than that. And given this kind of LBT features, the fact we're on a separate spectrum band, we're fairly confident that it is actually going to be like that. Right, so let's come back to the money. Because in my company, I don't know how it is for you, so I come with all these fancy ideas to my management that say, hey, give me money to build. They say, well, show me the market opportunity. So we have some research report from Harvard. So Harvard, we asked to look in very much detail into, so what of these use cases out there today would be best served by a technology like MulteFire. And that's how they came to this type of forecast. So here you can see it split out according to type of services. So some of it is network services, which means the gear. Some of it goes to the enabling part, which includes also the installation and so on. And some goes already into more advanced system apps. So very sensitive to this. So the market reaches a 120 billion by 2023. And again, it's an enormous number. So for me, I have my own business inside Nokia. If I capture 1%, my bonuses are in a pretty good shape. So, and I think, and again, as this is an emerging market, I think it shows the kind of opportunity that lies there for companies that are innovative, that are entrepreneurial, and want to go out and capture some of it. You can also split it into a different view. Sectorized view. I talked already a little bit about it, but the analysis showed that more than half, clearly more than half, would be served by this kind of private networks. And if you look at IoT, and specifically if you go to an airport or if you go to a harbor, most of that equipment will never leave the site. So if you have a harbor machine which lifts containers, which is connected to a private network, well, that machine never goes nowhere. So a lot of the revenue can be actually made inside for equipment that is attached inside a limited location, which is great because it's very easy to build this type of private networks. You don't need to worry about roaming, incoming traffic from the site and outgoing and so on. So then if you look then a little bit deeper, then we see factories, we see energy, warehousing, same story, right? A lot of stuff connected inside a warehouse, like the lifts, the sensors, the readers that people use to scan barcodes and so on. All kinds of stuff that will never leave the site. So that's a split. So if you want to make a business plan, this is a really good starting point. So go after these type of sectors. Then, what should you imagine? I mentioned already a few things. So actually, my company, we just made an agreement with a company that makes this type of products, which are cranes, and we have talked a lot about. So what is then the type of stuff that they want to do? And it ranges from adding cameras for either security or surveillance. Employee access and control is an interesting one, because suddenly you have the ability to add security gates wirelessly. You can add a camera wirelessly, which combines your badge with facial recognition. We are seeing a lot of interest in automated guided vehicles, and people say, why is that? They're automated. Well, there's something called fleet management. And the way these vehicles go to factories, even though it's automated, it's not all that perfect. And again, getting back the data from the vehicle itself, where it has been, what it does, and so on, gives an enormous possibility to improve how that functions. What else? Employee tracking. So you may think, what's this? Well, a lot of these factories are somewhat hazardous. So employee safety is, for example, a thing why you want to track. All right. So then I think I'm roughly going through my time. So to a little bit summarize it. So we think by bringing this kind of business critical connectivity into verticals in a much more easy way from deployment perspective. We think we will trigger new use cases, new innovation, and essentially open business opportunities. We can see that it's getting momentum. So, well, we have real products, so that's always the best proof point. 1.1 focused on IoT. So also for you, if you have a business, I think really good opportunities in IoT. And let's simply move on. So we're here to stay, and I hope you are as well. And if you're new, so please join us. And let's create this opportunity together.
We have time for like one or two questions.
Sure. 1, 2, 3, as many as you want.
Good afternoon. Adlan Fila from Maravilis. A couple of questions. One is, considering a scenario where a plant or a factory with a lot of moving parts still, 5 GHz doesn't seem to be the best frequency band for propagation and coverage. We're not using 2.4 instead in an environment like that.
We can. So we have looked at, you saw on the slide 2.4 is one of those frequency bands where we make MulteFire available. It comes with trade-offs. So 2.4 is probably the most occupied Wi-Fi band that people are a little bit hesitant. But 5 so it's going to be there. So, but even in 5 gigahertz, I would say coverage is quite good. If I look to simulations that we have done in ports, that looks fairly good, even though despite all the steel and so on. I think in free space, 5 gigahertz, a small cell would have a radius of up to 200 meters, which is actually quite enormous. That's of course in free space. So even in factories, I think we can fill out the coverage quite nicely.
The follow-up question is, in the case of that factory, do they have to deploy their own core network, or how?
I think there are companies offering different type of solutions. So there's edge clouds. If you, for example, extend an operator network with MulteFire, they have a core and they will just put something at the edge that would manage the small cells. There are also companies like Atonet here that have a very small EPC that you can put there. In my company, we have also different type of solutions. So I think there also we will see some kind of product differentiation and each company trying to tackle these cases in the way to win the market.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks. I'm Adam from CCI Wireless in Canada. A couple quick questions. Has there been any work on macro cell access point development? I noticed the two that you had shown here were picocells. So that was the first. The second being with Nokia, correct?
Yeah.
Has there been any work on Nokia's side to integrate the MulteFire protocol with the EPC firmware?
Or
existing LTE ports?
So of course, if you look to macro sites, we have there the LA and ELA, which is typically what MNO market has been asking for. Could you put MulteFire on the macro site? Yeah, of course, with low power hour rates. Of course, you have the output power limitation. But if we go into different bands, there's no reason not to do it.
So is there any work being done by manufacturers that you're aware of?
If I look to our products, so we have not made a RRH, if that's your question. So MulteFire RRH. If there would be demand, as I said in the beginning, it leans very heavily on 3GPP gear. So it's not a whole lot more than a frequency variant. Wouldn't be, the business case calculation would be frequency variant plus something, but limited. So I don't know anybody who's done it. Saeed, are you guys looking at that or no? All right. So nobody has done it, but I think it's an option. I think I saw some of the performance statistics of LA recently. It looks really good. So I think this kind of question may come to expand in that area. Then can MulteFire be integrated with our EPC pros? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I think, as I said earlier, for MNOs, it's especially if you have capacity challenges from your spectrum side, MulteFire is wonderful because it offers the full interoperability with your license network. Right? So calls can be handed over from one side to the other, and especially also for in-building, if you don't have the coverage, you can simply extend your macro network inside these deep-to-reach places. Or then if you just need more capacity, you add them like hotspots. So yeah, no, it has been designed to be able to do that. So I didn't talk about it, but in MulteFire we have standards working groups. One is radio, and there's also one that looks to the core site architecture. And there are these different type of models that build a standalone, augment macro network, and so on. So, and that one is definitely included.
Excellent, thank you.
Well, actually, we need to move on to our next speaker, unfortunately. Oh, sorry.
Well, we can do one more.
One more.
Because the microphone is already there.
I was just going to ask, my name is Matt from Cambium Networks. How do you see MulteFire as a standard playing with 802.11ax? I know we talked about non-interfering.
Sure. I think our coexistence is, I don't think that's an issue at all. So I think we if you look at, I mean, we use the same coexisting mechanisms. And actually, testing has shown that we are a little bit more gentle than Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi. So actually, if you have Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi, you take one Wi-Fi out and you put here MulteFire, this Wi-Fi will work better, which is funny. Or you can endlessly debate about it, but I don't think that's a challenge. In general, we have not said we would compete with Wi-Fi heads-on. We are simply targeting use cases which require more business or mission-critical type of connectivity and features like handovers, quality of service. Would there ever be a heads-on competition? Maybe when we go into the 5G era, that everything starts to dramatically evolve. Maybe there's some kind of competitive environment. But for today, I see these as coexisting, these two technologies. If you want to have a laptop and you want to connect it, well, of course, use Wi-Fi. Perfect.